District Legal Service Authority Shillong, ringkat ke Meghalaya State Legal Service Authority, kalau penlong ke Pynsngewthuh ya ka an Iadei Khynnah, ke Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act, Raja Khatsan, ya ki police officer, ki doktor, ki riusat an, bat ki para legal volunteer, ha Shillong Law College, dan ke ti menta ka arfundu tarik naitung arja arbusau. Habakran halot ka phang ke Iadei ke Jinghikai ka an bat ka karta jong ki Khynnah, ke kong KI Rembai, ke JMFC, Principal Magistrate JGB Shillong, kalau batai halor ki kendan bapher jong nekaan, ha ke Iadei kumno banle, habadan ke nuku jingja ke Iadei bat ki Khynnah. Kalau pensyairu kumno banle kat kumkaan, habale kamboman ki badang lung karta, kamtam ya ki Khynnah ki badang pule, ha ke bakajumi ke Jinghikai bat kaan.
Completed, he is found to be in conflict with law. He cannot be sentenced to death, he cannot be sentenced to life imprisonment because as per section 18, subsection 1, clause G of the Act, the maximum sentence is 3 years, okay, which we normally don't sentence them. Except in the Nirbhaya gang case, I think that was sentenced to maximum 3 years, okay. Section 23 talks about joint proceedings, that there should be no joint proceedings of the CCL and an adult accused. Okay, so that's why we have the Juvenile Justice Board, who will deal only with cases of children in conflict with law, and we have the normal adult courts for the other people. Okay, Section 24 is a very important section which most of us are not aware. Even I think the councils who are advising the children are also not advising them properly. Usually they are afraid to plead guilty. Because why? They are afraid that they may have a criminal record, they will not get a government job and so on and so forth. Okay. So every time that children come to the board, we used to stress on this particular point that there will be no criminal record against him. Even if he pleads guilty, he says that, okay, I have committed the rape against this child, POCSO case, or I have committed murder, and if the board finds him guilty or in conflict with law and convicts him, sentence him to fine or even to place of safety children's home for 3 years, after he comes out from there will not be any criminal record, no disqualification. Okay, so especially the paralegal volunteers, I think you should make it aware to your to the children in your locality, in your concerned place, that even if they plead guilty, there will be no criminal record against him. Okay, after the period of appeal is over, after conviction, period of appeal is over, the board will direct the police officers concerned, police stations concerned, and even its own registry to destroy all the documents relating to the child, the case records, okay, the offense report and everything has to be destroyed, so there will be no criminal record. I think this one you should, especially the paralegal volunteers and the legal aid councils, you should always I think encourage the children to tell the truth, admit if they have committed the offense, and if they have committed the offense, there are so many procedures, so many benefits for them provided in the Act, okay, because the main objective of the Act is to reform the children and not to punish them. So if they admit, we can help them, we can send them for counseling sessions so that they'll become better humans and better citizens in the future. I think that is what we should encourage them, okay. Be in conflict with law. Section 18 of the Act. Section 18 of the Act, that is a very lengthy, long section, so you can go through by yourself what the board will do. Some of the legal aid councils who have been appearing in the board, we have seen how they are dealing with children who are found to be in conflict with law. Most of the time, in order to help them, especially children who are still studying, they are found to be in conflict with law. So what do? We send them for counseling sessions so that they will be getting, counseling on their career. Then we give them awareness on POCSO, NDPS Act, and so on and so forth, and the general awareness. Okay, so that we have to give the order to the concerned LCPO, Legal Cum Probation Officer, who will take necessary steps in taking up the counseling sessions of the children in conflict with law. Then another order which normally we used to pass is asking the child in conflict with law, who is found to be in conflict with law, to come forward for community service. Okay, so that too is the LCPO who will manage and draw the schedule of how to go about community service. For instance, if a child is from Khynnah maybe, then he cannot come to Shillong or to, maybe we can send him for community service there in his hometown, in his village itself, in coordination with the Rangbashnong and all that, so we can accordingly direct that way. We can even direct them to pay a fine. For instance, if the child in conflict with law is already 25 years of age, trial inquiry went on for so and so years. So what is the point of asking him to go for community service and counseling? So we just impose a fine, minimal amount only, maybe 1,000, 2,000, depending on the offense that he has committed. Okay, so these are the three common things which we used to do, because we can also send them, release them on probation, but then the LCPO is also overburdened with so many children, because there's only one probation officer, so he or she cannot follow up the children. Okay, so depending from case to case, we have to examine. The child is actually in need of counseling, we send him for counseling. If he does not need counseling, depending on petty offences, we ask them to come for community service, and so on and so forth. Okay. Which is section 94. Section 94 of the Act, presumption and determination of age of the child. So now when the child is produced before the board, if by his looks only it's obvious that he is a child, then the board will accordingly record that he is a child. But if there is some doubt, maybe the child is 17 years old and there is some doubt that he might be an adult, then what do we have to do? What do we have to do? Section 94. Section 94, everybody should go through, especially the police officials. Okay, at the time of apprehension, you have to produce the birth certificate of the child. First of all, birth certificate from the school or the matriculation or equivalent certificate from the concerned examination board. Okay, that is the first document. If that is not available, then you can produce the birth certificate be given by the concerned municipal corporation, okay, which usually they used to produce. And then in the absence of the school certificate and the birth certificate, then the child, the age of the child can be determined by ossification. Okay. So I think that is all. I think section 94 talks about that. You have to be clear. First of all is the school certificate. If he does not have a birth certificate, then if he does not have a school certificate, then the birth certificate issued by the concerned authority. If these two are absent, then the child can be sent for ossification test. Fine, no? First step that the police have to do at the time when the child is apprehended. Okay, so first of all, the child has to be placed under the charge of the special juvenile. As soon as he is apprehended, he has to be placed within the charge of, under the charge of the special juvenile release unit, which we have here in our district also. Then thereafter, after the apprehension, the child should be produced before the nearest juvenile justice board within the period of 24 hours, excluding the period of travel. Then the child in conflict with law who is apprehended, he should never be placed in a police lock-up or even watched in a jail. He should also be taken to for medical examination and before production before the board. And after his apprehension, the parents or the guardians of the child in conflict with law have to be informed about the apprehension. Okay. Now the last, he should not be chained or handcuffed. I mean, even the adult accused are also not chained and handcuffed. So obviously for the child, that is also a very important mandate. Then another one is that the child must be provided with appropriate medical assistance. Along with it, he must be provided with assistance from an interpreter if he finds the language difficult to understand, or any assistance as per his requirements. Now there are so many children from Bangladesh who have recently been apprehended and they cannot communicate. So I've seen that duly complied with it, because they usually when they produce a child before the board, they would bring along a person who would understand their language, and accordingly they are being helped to interpret whatever they want to say. Now meals also, obviously the food must be provided to the child. Then when the child is brought before the police officer, his parents must also be present, and if he is to be interviewed, he has to be interviewed in the presence of his parents or guardian. Okay. Then he should not be compelled to confess his guilt, and he must not be interviewed, and he must be interviewed at a child-friendly premises. I don't know, police stations have child-friendly corners or not in the police station, but I think you should adhere to these guidelines. Okay. I mean, as per the section 10 of the Act. Then he should not be also compelled to sign any statement. Suppose if his statement is recorded, he should not be compelled to sign. Okay. Then the police officials must be in plain clothes, which I've seen the police officials in our district are compliant. They are not in police uniforms, but in their plain clothes. Then, in case the child is a female, the IO concerned inquiry officer should be always a female police officer, which is being duly complied in our district. Then section 11 talks about the role of a person in whose charge the CCL is placed. Section 11 I think you can go through by yourself. Now section 12 is it talks about bail of a person who is presently a child and who is alleged to have committed an offence. Now, as per section 12, it says that the child, as soon as he is apprehended, and if he moves an application before the board, he should be released. Okay, he should be released irrespective of whether he has committed an offence which is bailable or non-bailable. But there is a proviso over there which says that he shall not be released if there are reasonable grounds that would bring the child in association with any known criminals or expose him to any moral, physical or psychological danger, or his release would defeat the ends of justice. So when an application for bail comes before the JGB has to examine whether the release of the child on bail would be for his best interest. So one of the criteria is that the JGB should always look out for the best interest of the child. Okay, it's fine now till then. Parents, guardians or probation officer. So as soon as he is apprehended, the child in conflict with law is apprehended, he has to be the parents, guardians or a probation officer. In case parents and guardians are not there, the probation officer should be informed of the apprehension. Now section 14 talks about the inquiry before the board. Well, like I said earlier, there are three types of offences: petty, serious and heinous offence described under the Act. So for cases of petty offences, the board shall dispose of the cases through summary proceedings under the CRPC, BNSS. Summary proceedings is defined and discussed over there. Now for serious offences and heinous offences, the procedure which shall be followed by the Juvenile Justice Board is procedure in trial of summons cases. Mental and physical capacity to commit such offence, for example, rape, murder. Okay, these are heinous offences because they are punishable for more than 7 years. Mental and physical capacity to commit such an offence, then the ability to understand the consequences of the offence, ability of that particular child to understand the consequences of the offence. Third one is the circumstances in which he allegedly committed the offence. Then what will the board do? The board by itself, since the members of the board are not experts, the board will refer the child to a psychologist or whoever it is, which the IO concern will take up the matter. Usually here in Shillong, we used to send the IOs used to take the children for preliminary assessment to Negram's Hospital and Children's Hospital, where experts are there. But so far we have not received proper reports regarding these 3 points. Okay, the mental capacity to commit such offence, ability to understand to commit such offence, and circumstances in which he allegedly committed the offence. So, but then recently we have tried to sort things out, and I think they are doing they are so. Or after receiving the reports, if the board finds that the circumstances does not suggest that the child has the mental or physical capacity to commit such offence, then the child will be tried as a child only in the JGB. Understood, no? Section 50. So it's for children between 16 and 18 years who have committed heinous offence. So if he's 16 to 18, if he commits a petty or a serious offence, preliminary assessment is not required, only for heinous offences. Okay, so IOs have to keep this in mind, and I think everybody, the IOs especially, have been directed as to how to go about with the preliminary assessment, because we have supplied the formats for the IOs to supply to the